there's a lot of drama at the minute. It's kind of something I want to bring up because I've seen it in my own chat about my own tournament. I've seen it in the ITC organizers group about tournaments. You get people who won't be able to get the codex for their army at the same time as other people because they probably will get it and it'll sell out within minutes because it'll be super popular because orcs are a popular faction. So then you've got like people who play orcs who have the new codex and people who play orcs who have the old codex. And now everyone's like, oh yeah, do we let the new codex that you can't buy off the shelf after day one run at tournaments? What do you think, Jay?
So
give me your hot take.
We've had this chat personally. Every single tournament rules pack, I think bar none, it says things you need to bring. Your models, your dice, tape, followed by all the rules for your army, rulebook, supplements, codex, etc. And if you don't have the rules for your army, you can't play it.
Yeah.
You go, I don't have the book because I was one of the unfortunate people that didn't get it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't put your opponent in that position. Whether you're in that position or not, is regardless of, for this example, you shouldn't put your opponent in that position where they have to take it on faith because that's not fair to them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you allow some people to play with new rules and some people are forced to play with old rules?
Yeah. I think the bigger question is, should you allow people play the new rules when they're not readily available? Because like you're saying, should you allow people to play with the new codex and play with the old codex in the same event? Which I think is a big no-no.
Either be everyone plays with the new orcs or everyone plays with the old orcs.
Yeah.
And you have to have the book to be able to play with the new orcs.
Which I totally agree with. What I would say though is, even if, let's say I was running a tournament and I had 5 orc players there, and those 5 orc players all managed to get a Beast Snagger box, so they all have a limited edition codex. But the codex isn't readily available on the shelf. Me personally, I still wouldn't allow the new codex at that event, even though the 5 players that are registered as orc players have a codex. I still wouldn't allow it because it's not on general release, which means I probably haven't seen it because I don't think I'll be getting a limited edition Beast Snagger box by the sounds of it. Which means I haven't got the codex, which means I've got no idea about it. And as a TO, I like to have a good idea about every codex that's available because it's all about like it's open. It's like open. Essentially, the unwritten rule is it's an open book policy when you're playing Warhammer, right? If you want to check something, you need to know. You need to be able to see it. And like, if I'm going to a tournament and then everyone's got their Beast Snagger codex, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I've got no idea what's in there because I've only seen like what one guy put on YouTube because he got it before everyone else. I don't think it should be allowed. Like the idea of like people running the new book and the old book at the same event is obviously like crazy talk, in my opinion. Every army should be using the same rules.
Bonkers.
But I also don't think that.
Bonkers.
Yeah, I also don't think that people who have the limited edition codex should have any advantage over any other player in the tournament. Because 1, it's like not knowing what's happening, but also 2, it's like, oh, what if this is really good? I also want to play that. Oh, I can't because I can't get that book.
Well, I look at it from a slightly different perspective because right now I'm not running events. My local, unfortunately, due to pandemic, shut down. I have on the shelves over there every codex that's been released for 9th edition. With the exception of Death Guard, which my housemate's got, so I can borrow it. And the reason I have that is because as someone that's a competitive player, I want to know what my opponent's army can do. And because of the way my brain works, I can't just watch a YouTube video or read an article on the internet and have it sink in. I have to kind of sit there with the physical book. I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but basically I need that to allow it to get in.
I do that before every game I play with an army. I sit down and read the codex.
Oh, I bet you do. Like, how many armies do you end up playing, though, because of the channel?
I've got no
idea.
idea.
You've probably played 15 armies in the last whatever length of time since the 9th came out, right?
Oh, God, yeah. Especially when you're using different builds as well.
Yeah, exactly. You can never practice so much with the same list. And that makes things difficult. But for me, I just want to get to a table and be able to look at my opponent's stuff and go, cool.
You got a good idea what that does.
All of this does. I know what his battle plan is because I know what stratagems he's going to be leaning on based on his army composition. What I was going to say was, even if like the Beast Snagger box came out this weekend and then 2 weeks later that was the Orc Codex, I still don't think you could really allow that at your event because the Codex release hasn't been out for long enough for people to be able to write an army list that can handle it. Like there's normally for almost every tournament I've experienced one that it didn't happen. We talked about it on the last stream, I think. Normally, there's a cutoff date for rules. Like no rules used after this date can be used unless it's a clarification in an FAQ. And I don't think you'd ever get a point where it's been out for long enough to use for your specific tournament.
Yeah.
But obviously later down the line, as soon as the Orc book is out for regular release,
then yeah,
there
it's
you
fine.
go. You crack on.
Yeah. Because leading back to it, it's like with all this FOMO that's going on, what if as an Orc player, I log in?
Super early.
Super early. I'm on my queue system, right?
Yeah.
But everyone else has gone on at 5:30.
Your position number 3002.
Yeah, it's like that scene from Beetlejuice, right, where he pulls his ticket and it's like 3 billion and they're on number 3 or whatever it was. I don't know. So it's that sort of vibe. But you still miss out on the Orc Codex. You've been there for 2 hours now, and it's like, oh well, what am I supposed to do? Go to tournament in 2 weeks. Am I supposed to use the Codex? I don't know. So it's just anyone. Yeah, anyone thinking of saying, "Oh yeah, let's allow the new Orc Codex that is in a limited edition box that you can't get at your local store because they've said they're not getting any, and you can only get it from Games Workshop, and hopefully you'll get one. You know, like no pressure, obviously." I just think it's like I think it was bizarre because it was quite a long conversation I saw on this ITC organizers chat, and it was just like, should we allow it or should we allow both? I was just like, are you for real? Would you? Why would you? Yeah, would you allow both? Like, what? What is going on? Are you mad? You're crazy. It's going to be out. It's not going to be out on the same day, but it's going to be out in a week or two, you know? It can't be too far behind. But here's one. A little bit of a side topic regarding allowing codexes at events. Now, I threw the idea out in the chat in our WhatsApp group about it, and it's kind of like met with a little bit of it wasn't negative. I think everyone appreciated the idea but wasn't a fan. But something that's very common in Age of Sigmar events rather than what is common in 40k events is that having an FAQ for a codex essentially allows it at that tournament. So if your codex or army book at the time doesn't have an FAQ, isn't allowed at some events. And this is quite a common rule in Age of Sigmar. And I was like, I wonder what that'd be like in a 40k event. If I said at my own events, you can't use your codex unless it has an FAQ, which essentially adds a buffer for a new codex, because a new codex
4 to 6 weeks as well.
So usually you have a buffer of like 2 weeks that said, okay, there's a cutoff of like 2 weeks before the event, you can't use the codexes after that. But then because FAQs usually used to come out 2 weeks after, now it's a little bit different.
They were on the dot before.
It used to be every 2 weeks. Yeah, now it's a little bit more spread out, right? I was wondering of your opinion, but about bringing that in, because what that does is obviously with Games Workshop we're seeing a very much a FAQ to fix the real wording issues, which are ridiculous, such as the Taraxi dropping, shooting, attacks, coming to town, like unlimited attacks, etc. They're coming down and saying, okay, let's fix that to make sure that's not used. But then a few weeks later, we saw it with a balance change with Drakari getting points changes, etc. That's a little bit different. But initially, especially like with a new codex, when the wording is bad, such as like Sisters right now, arguably, technically, by the rules, war suits are 240 points per model, and Celestine ignores bolters as well as loads of other stuff because it reduces damage by 1 with no minimum allowed. You know,
that's
whilst that is very
which I think
obvious,
is a perfectly fair price to ignore damage 1, because that's a lot of close combat. Entirely ignore.
Yeah. Whilst technically that is correct, no one's going to play it like that. No one's going to allow it to play like that. But a table, unless you've actively said at the event, don't ignore damage 1.
You would have had to put in your rules pack, this is the way this is being played.
Yes.
Right?
But if
your pre-event FAQ for your event only.
Yeah. But if Games Workshop had already FAQ'd that, I wouldn't need to. But also, until that's done, that codex would be banned. What's your opinion on that ideology? Again, it's really common in Age of Sigmar, not really done in 40k. I wondered would that be a good transfer over? Would that be something good we learned from Age of Sigmar, or would it be bad? What do you think?
So I play competitively one army, and that's it, because I love that army. Okay? So what if right now, today, the Knight Codex dropped, and I'm taking Knights to Hellstorm, but I don't get an FAQ? Would I just not attend at that point because I can't use my army entirely, or is it the new book that's banned and you can carry on using the old one?
It would be a case of, if it was my event, I'm pretty sure this is how it works. If it was my event, this is how I'd play it. Is that if the Knights got a codex today and didn't have an FAQ by my event, you'd have to use the old one. The new event would, new one would be banned essentially,
so
because there's
totally
no FAQ.
fine with that, because it's you're not taking a player that is in my sort of position where you have one army that you play and alienating them. You can't. You're not saying, well, look, you bought a ticket. I mean, in this case, it was a year and a bit ago for an event that you were going to go to, and now you can't play at the event at all.
Yeah, I think it'd be very unfair. Very unfair to say you can't play that army at all. Unless it was a brand new faction, then yeah, you're saying you can't play that army at all. If they go,
you then haven't had that player in that position where they've only ever played that faction, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
if they go,
that feels bad doesn't exist.
I don't know. We're bringing out squats. Not today, with entire range. You want to?
What if it's a green corn demon came back?
Well, again, that's a little bit different because you can use that as a corn army, right? Or like anything. But let's say a brand new range today, like Soulblight Gravelords, for example. Soulblight Gravelords came out a couple of months ago for Age of Sigmar, and basically that book
you get more Sigmar new stuff than 40k new stuff in terms of entire
like
ranges.
New factions.
So.
Yeah, that's like a total refresh of Legions of Nagash, the vampire stuff. So for that book in particular is banned. The units aren't banned, but that book is banned.
Okay.
So what does chat think? Let me know in the chat what do you think what do you think to this idea? Because essentially what you're doing is if Games Workshop take the mick, well, like with Sisters, for example, Sisters have been out since a month today. So it's been a month now, but so technically, even though they've been out a whole month, then you'd be
4 weeks and a weekend.
Yeah, I would be saying that codex is not allowed, including not more than Val, the Paragon Warsuits, the Sacrosancts, etc. So if Games Workshop were like bang on every 2 weeks, it'd be amazing, because essentially what you're saying is every codex has a 2-week cool-off period of like, if it's out 2 weeks before the event or before list submissions, amazing, you can't use it, which is very reasonable. Now, to counter my own argument is that it's been a month and 4 weeks and a weekend, and there's still no FAQ for Sisters. So technically, if I brought that rule in, Sisters of Battle would still be banned, even though they've already been out over a month.
Yeah, I think it would come down to how broken is the stuff in that book. Okay, like I've charged you to just take 20 damage Succubus, for instance. Like that's obscene, and that was obviously something that was an oversight. And I hate arguing like intent for rules writers, because there's 4 of them sat in a room, and I guarantee nobody in this chat, you or me or anyone watching this video, was one of those 4 people. So I hate like rules as intended as an argument, but I don't believe that would have been what they wanted.
No.
And we then saw that not long afterwards with the changes to the core rules for the way that exploding attacks work.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's a fair one.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, I think that's really the sort of thing that, that needs to wait, because this is a bit weird. The Taraxi thing with the jump down, jump up.
Yeah.
We both have a friend that was talking about not taking those in lists specifically because they were waiting for exactly that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. But then the problem is then how far, because this conversation keeps coming up about what I'm about to bring up regarding like campaign rules adding too many extra rules and just being broken and just stupid, and maybe we should ban them all. But like, how far do we go if we're just saying, oh, this seems too obnoxious, so we should house rule it where you can't do that? But also, that stratagem for Vanguard that lets him wound anything on 4+, that seems quite obnoxious, so it should be like 2 CP. Surely that's supposed to be 2 or 3 CP. And then super heavies are actually really broken, so maybe we should ban those, because maybe Games Workshop didn't like them or didn't write them properly, as a really bizarre one. But that's kind of like the slippery slope you're on, as like the top is like, oh, let's stop this stratagem, and then the bottom is like, we should ban units because we don't like them.
So I'm very much in favor always of playing with rules as written.
Yeah.
Because those are the rules.
Because that's what you got.
And if we all play the same rules, we're all playing the same game.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I totally agree as well.
I've said that many, many, many times. When it comes down to stuff like this of a tournament organizer deciding on extra restrictions for their event. It's their event. They can do whatever the
Exactly,
they
yeah.
like.
They're God in terms of Warhammer 40k rules
Yes,
or any
you're
rules.
the arbiter at that point of everything to do with the game.
We've got an energy sword. If you step out of line, I'll
decide-
chop you down. Sorry, that's a Halo reference.
Sure. So you've got all of that power, but you've also got all of that responsibility, because if you decide at your event, you know what, we're not going to play any of these new things because there's no FAQ, and also I think that this stratagem needs to be this many CP, and I also think that, and you want to know exactly where I'm going here, that with reanimation protocols, they fucked it entirely, and you have to have the same coherency when you bring them back as you had with the unit starting. You can't string them out all over the places. You've created a different game, and you're not playing Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah.
You're playing the WTC. And that isn't necessarily what people want. But if you sell the tickets, maybe it is.
Yeah.
So as long as you present your rules pack to people before they buy the tickets, or make damn sure you offer refunds for things, and I'd love to have talked about this, but we're running out of time, in a way that players are knowing what they're signing up for when they sign up for the ticket, then it's absolutely fine. You can do whatever you like, because without things like that, the ETC wouldn't have existed, the ITC wouldn't have existed, obviously now the WTC wouldn't have existed, the game wouldn't have gone through the evolution it's gone through. The reason we're playing 9th edition the way we're playing it is because everyone decided they liked the Nova rules format. Then the ITC was born that took that on and made it really popular, because it wasn't one event in the middle of America, it was events all over the world. And that's the evolution of the game, and that all of these things have helped to make the game that we all love the game that we love.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
It's on you. It's your choice. You've got the power, but you have the responsibility, and that goes hand in hand. You can be Spider-Man now.
Exactly, yeah. Thanks, Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben. Yeah.
Uncle Ben.
Wait, I got shot. Fuck that.
They've seen all the Forge World boxes in the bin, that's why, mate.
yeah, too right.
Barbie has said, if you have a codex, you should be able to play it. What's the point of ordering it if you can't play it? Well, you can play it, but you just can't play it at an organised event, because it isn't fair when you've got, like, you know, it's come out like the day before list submission. That's not fair, because of going back to not being able to access, everyone being able to access the same rules and digest it before the event, which isn't fair. So
I think one thing you have to say about a tournament is that regardless of what decisions that have been taken by the TO, the event exists to promote fair play within the game.
And fun for everyone.
It has to be fair.
Yeah. Fairness pronounce
the fun part shouldn't be like forgotten. It is a tournament. I am there to crush your soul.
Yeah. But you
I'd
make
like
laugh.
you to have fun while I do that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's what you got to remember. It's like, it's all about being super fair, and fair promotes fair play, and fair play promotes fun. Because no one likes being gotcha, no one likes being like caught off guard. You know, that's just isn't a nice way to play, and it isn't fair. No. So it's just it's interesting.
They will still happen regardless of how well the pack is written and stuff like that. But that's why you have things like codes of conduct, and you have this like it's essentially the terms and conditions. You've bought your ticket, you've agreed, you've told me you're going to play this way and not be a dick. There you are.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's fine. Are you going to allow a codex at your event without an FAQ?
In this instance,
one is a hard sell.
In this instance, I will be allowing sisters, because I haven't sold the ticket as, if it doesn't have an FAQ, you can't use it. It was an idea that I floated initially before I sold tickets. So, and people were a bit against it.
A very good way of doing it.
Yeah, but if Games Workshop were very consistent with their FAQs, like they were a couple of years ago, I would have probably put that in, because then at this point we would have had a sisters FAQ. We wouldn't had a Beast Snagger version of the Codex Orcs review by the time my events run, so it wouldn't be allowed, which would clear every rule up, you know?
I imagine you probably wouldn't get an FAQ for the Beast Snagger Codex. You'd just wait till you got...
You'd only get one with the official...
And then wait.
Yeah, you'd only get one with the official release, which means that my back would be covered, because I wouldn't have to say, no, the limited edition Codex isn't allowed because I don't want it to be. If it's not allowed, there's no FAQ. Easy peasy.
Campaign books. with like no FAQ for a campaign book.
It would be every book. Yeah, it would be every book.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to put it, because that's fair. Fair
Yeah.
means without favor or disfavor, so it's blanket across the board. That is fair.
So I've got to kind of work that out, whether the new campaign book will be allowed, and decide if Be'lakor will be allowed, because technically he's got no rules out on the market yet.
I think the answer to that is definitely a no.
Yeah.
I don't think Be'lakor is allowed at all.
If the book's not allowed.
No, I just in general.
Just in general. Just don't like Be'lakor.
No.
Oh, I love
360
Be'lakor.
points for all of that. And he's psychic. And he flies. Can you bugger off, please?
Can you piss off?